Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us live today. We have a great presentation. We're going to talk all about the challenges and creativity in doing sound design at theme parks. Today's application case study specifically is about a theme park in the west of France, Puy Du Fou. And coming to us live from the park itself, we have our head of applications for install for France and sound designer Samuel Brion. Arnaud and Samuel, great to see you guys. Thank you for joining us all the way from Puy Du Fou.
Hi Scott.
Hi.
So we had to cancel last week, but finally this week I was supposed to come to Puy Du Fou, preparing all the shows for as soon as we can open. So, well, we managed to do it in this nice Elisa studio they have in-house at Puy Du Fou. With Samuel, who is mixing all the shows for the park.
Excellent. Well, Arnaud, I'm really excited about this conversation today. And Samuel, it's really great to have you join us. Just before we get started, for everyone who's watching live, I want to let you know we've got three commentators, or pardon me, moderators that are going to help answer some questions. And all three of them have actually been to the park itself at least once. So starting out first with my good friend Alex Soto, coming to us from Guadalajara, Mexico. Alex, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Scott. Thank you again for this invitation. Welcome, everyone. Bienvenidos todos. Buenas tardes, España. Buenos días, Latinoamérica. Espero disfruten este día. Thank you, Scott.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. Heading north, Jesse, this is something I know that really impressed you when you got a chance to go to Puy Du Fou 2 years ago, especially with your background in theater sound design. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah. Hey, thanks everyone. Good to be here. Yeah, this is a really cool experience. If anyone has a chance to check out Puy Du Fou in real life, even if you're not really if you don't speak French, it's an incredible experience, very theatrical, so much to see, and like some really awesome engineering challenges as well, which we'll see. So thanks.
Excellent. And coming to us from the far east, otherwise known as London via Russia, Sergey, it's great to see you again today.
Hello, everyone. Hello, team. Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone in the world. Make sure at some point visit this park. This is a really good place. I can only agree with the guys who have been there. It's an amazing experience, and from the sound point of view as well. And of course, it's best to experience what we're going to talk about today. It's best to experience in person. Привет всем. Когда будет возможность посетить этот парк, очень интересно.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sergey. I really appreciate having you with us today. Arnaud, I'm going to send it over to you, and I think we kind of wanted to explain to everyone a little bit about the park to give it a start. So we had some background on that, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So as you talk to me, I'm seeing that I forgot to send my Google Earth application to show you, because the first thing I wanted to show you is where the Puy Du Fou is. So let me just throw this window to you, so I can go and show you where Puy Du Fou is. So launching Google Earth, Puy Du Fou is in the countryside of the Vendéan region. And if I go back all over this world, okay, here we are. Let's just have a search on it. The Puy Du Fou, and we are there. Okay, so you see this is a theme park where you can only have shows. Okay, there is no roller coaster or stuff like that, so only shows, historical shows about the history of the region, and mostly French history and history of the region. Okay, so a little bit of history before we start to talk about sound. This park started in 1917. It was just like that. You can see cows. The first show was made with cars as a lighting solution. And this was this ruined castle that was willing to make a show. Then in 1988, Le Grand Parc opens, which goes for one new show every year, and it's still continuing like that. In 2001, we started working with Puy Du Fou, and the first show is made with L-Acoustics speakers. That's a Roman arena that was renewed some years ago, 2 years ago. And then in 2003, we had Vidosk in the Cineceni, this big show. We will talk about it in a few minutes. 2016, a little jump in the time, first fixed installation, world premiere of Elisa with the dernier panache. Then the Cineceni is equipped with K1 and K2, these 4 last years. And in 2017, officializing the way we were working with them since 15 years, L-Acoustics and the Puy Du Fou becomes official partners. That was for the quick history. Today, Puy Du Fou is second most visited Europe's theme park. I can let you guess with first. They get multiple international awards. Every year they get awards for many shows from Las Vegas, from what's the last one? From Le Premier Royaume? Récompense?
Yeah, last year.
That was the best show for
best show of the world. Yeah, best show of the world.
In Las Vegas?
Yeah,
again?
Same.
So in Las Vegas, best show for Le Dernier Royaume, the new show from last year. And every year they get some awards from this show. So more than 100 hectares, more than 20 shows, international development with Puy Du Fou Spain, some production in the Netherlands, in Asia soon. So big international development. And just for you to imagine how big the Puy Du Fou is regarding L-Acoustics, it's more than 1,500 enclosures and more than 400 amplifier controllers. So that's bigger than a big rental company. They have a lot of equipment, and they have all the range, meaning that all our products in the range find a solution in some specific case. So they've got the complete range in their parks. So Scott, what would be the challenge for you for a theme park?
You know, I can imagine there's a number of challenges for a theme park. I would right off the bat say I can imagine you're not allowed to put the speakers close to people. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah, the longest distance is 250 meters.
Right. So SPL at long distance, we got to hide the speakers. The audience is far away. I'm assuming we need to have a lot of bandwidth to reproduce both music and effects. So that's probably quite a challenge. But it's gonna. You guys are doing almost cinematic scores, if I recall. Very big orchestration. So you need to have really high quality and pristine sound as well. You got to scale from you know, the tonality, or you got to have small systems and big systems, and obviously you're working in a studio there. Is that where you guys actually pre-produce the content as well?
Yes, in the studio with Elisa, small Elisa system. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing a whole lot of speakers there, so I'm assuming you have to hide them in scenery as well. And that's going to be an interesting challenge. The park is quite impressive, but your ticket prices are quite reasonable. I remember taking my family there last year, and it was not a very expensive place to go for a family of 5. So I'm assuming there's got to be some reasonable cost for the speakers. We have to think about how expensive and how much you get to spend, and then. Arno, you've been there for years, but I still can't comprehend integrating and deploying all this and the challenges that might pose, especially on a tight construction schedule. So
yeah, that's right. So if I go back to the challenges, you talked about bandwidth. Of course, it can go to the very subs. Some I'm right. You need effects that goes very low in frequency.
Very low, and to have some power in the body when you have explosion on stage or something like that.
Okay.
Like cinema.
So same
like LFE track.
Yeah. So same challenges as for music and cinema. Pristine sound. Samuel told me that it's mainly orchestral music.
Yeah, and we think to have a very good show, the most important ingredient is the sound. So we want to have hi-fi quality, but with high SPL. So we have found 20 years ago L-Acoustics, and we are very happy.
They often tell me about they're seek for emotion. So you can get an emotional impact if you have poor speakers with not enough SPL, not enough pristine sound. So that's not possible. Integration, of course, scalability. You can go from 10 people in the walkthroughs to 14,000 people. Cost effective, of course. I mean, there is no magic behind that. They have to keep in some reality.
Yeah.
And the deployment for a new show, for example, the park closes mid October, and it reopens very beginning of April. I mean, in usual years. So they've got not even 6 months to build a new show because they will never allow a truck to go through the visitors during the opening. So they've got very few time to get the show ready. So they have to have solutions that are very easy to deploy. Okay, so Scott, could you remember me your title at L-Acoustic?
It is Product and Technology Outreach Manager.
Okay, so maybe you could have solutions with your range of speakers for all these challenges.
Sure, right. So, SPL long distance is fundamentally a function of power ratio or SPL line length ratio. And I talk about this a lot. You guys have heard me talk about this in other webinars. If you've been to a trade show, you've heard me talk about this, but what we have to remember is the amount of power we can fit in a certain space, right? That amount of power we can fit in a certain space is really going to be a function of how loud it gets at a distance. So if we need to have a certain amount of power far away, we need to get as much power into a small space as we can. Seems a bit counterintuitive, but that's the way a line source array works. And it just so happens that specifically K1 and K2 and Cara are market leading in SPL density. So they have the ability to really project sound further than just about anything else.
Okay, so bandwidth? What about our products?
Yeah, so we've spent a lot of time over the years developing different technologies to enhance the quality of sound. And some of those also mean we can get more bandwidth in a smaller space, right? The prime example of that was the launch of K1 about 10 years ago. We integrated in a modern line source array a full range product. And so K1 goes down to 35 hertz on its own. So the main speaker system itself is full range, which gets us all the musical content. And that concept and that philosophy has really transitioned across the product line from A series going down to 40 hertz for the A15. Cara goes down to 55 hertz, which is incredibly low for something that size. And same with K2 going down to 35 hertz as well. So we have full range in the main enclosures, which is a big help from a sound design perspective and an integration perspective in not only concerts, but also theme parks and other experiences. Okay,
so Sam was willing to have a pristine sound for mixing his tracks.
Yeah, right. And I think my favorite way to tell the story is probably not true, but for the Back to the Future fans, Christian Heil slipped on the toilet and hit his head and came up with the DOSC waveguide, right, in 1992. But the advantage of that is we create a field of sound further away that feels closer. So my example always is if you close your eyes and you're standing in front of a VDOSC or a K1 or K2 or A15, you think it's actually closer to you than it actually is. So it sounds more proximate. And this is especially helpful at a theme park where we're trying to create really detailed, nuanced sound at a long distance. And the ability for the DOSC waveguide to create that clean and pristine sound through the entire audio spectrum. This is still to this day a very unique feature. It's not very common to have that pristine sound from a large array of speakers at a long distance.
Okay, scalability.
Right.
Clearly, some. Do you think you would accept having something different with the 5XT than you have with the K1 at the Cine for mixing? Something that sounds completely different? Would that be possible?
No. We have you say about the studio.
The studio and all the shows, having a 5XT in one show and a K1 in another show. Do you really need to have the same contour, same response?
Yeah. It's very important to have the same color on each show and in the studio, so we have less work in situ to work, because we know the sound of each speaker, so it's very easy to mix. After that, when you have a coherence between the studio and all the show, is very easy.
Okay, so then for the integration, Scott, do you have any solution for this only small size we are allowed to fit in, and still with a lot of SPL?
Right, and that's interesting, right? So we talked about power density when it comes to a line source for throw, but the same thing is true when we talk about a point source speaker. And in fact, if you look at L-Acoustics product line, we're generally the highest performing in each of the classes. So that means in that small point source size box, we usually have 2, 3, or 4 dB more than just about anything else on the market. And that starts to become a real concern when you talk about long throw at, less anicity at this huge distance for all these people. But it's just as important when you're integrating a speaker in scenery, because I can only imagine how much energy you need just to get through the scenery necessarily and cover that. And oh, by the way, Sam, I would assume you guys are not the first person to design where the speakers go, so it's probably not your first choice of everything, and you probably also don't get all the space you ever wanted. Is that correct?
Ouais, juste en français, vas-y.
Est-ce que vous êtes les seuls à décider?
Yes, in Puy Du Fou.
Non, mais par rapport au décor, au décorateur et l'intégration de tout ça.
It's always a conversation with the architect and all the design team. But we want to listen the best sound, but we don't want to see it. So it's always difficult to find a good solution. But with the L-Acoustics, we always have a good solution.
And that becomes interesting when we have this really high performance to size ratio. So it's really important part of finding the right fit, and we really work hard on giving everyone for each class the most performance possible, whether it's the 5XT that has the highest SPL in its class, or now even the X4i, which I'm assuming you guys are using as well, has 2 or 3 dB more than almost everything else like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not yet for the X4i, but it's planned for the next show.
Yeah.
Excellent.
For the cost, for the budget of the show, maybe we've all heard that L-Acoustics is very expensive. Do you agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, sure. I've heard that statement many times, that L-Acoustics is expensive, but you sometimes have to take the cost of the speaker and think about it in terms of its performance. And in that sense, we do cost a little bit more when you talk about an 8-inch point source versus other brands. But when you take its performance and figure out what it's capable of doing, we often actually cost less than most of the market. And so that becomes an interesting metric when you divide that. Remember, with something like a subwoofer, if you put 2 subwoofers side by side, you gain 6 dB and you double the budget. So if one subwoofer happens to be 3 dB louder for the same price or a similar price, it's much more efficient in terms of its SPL for euro or dollar. And that's going to be true with a point source as well. That's going to be true with a line source like a K1 or K2. So if you can do the same amount of performance with a few less speakers even if each individual speaker is slightly more expensive, you're probably actually in a more efficient cost scenario. And when you take that math and use that on your show site, that can really be an eye-opener in terms of how this affects the budget overall, how it affects the cost of the event.
Cool. And then for the deployments, I will not ask you. I can tell it's really getting more and more easy to do the deployment here in Puy Du Fou with all the new tools and all the ecosystem. We were installing AVB at the Cinecine today, and I thought it would be long and difficult, and well, it was already done when I came in, so that was very easy. So LS10 was just doing what it's meant to do, just having AVB through it, and all was very easy to do. And I hope I can use M1 if the wind goes down tonight for tuning the system. So let's have a look at the shows. Okay, we've got the Vikings running with a DV-Dusk, DV-Sub. I love this one. Still running with the DV-Dusk, still very efficient. Sam, do you still like it?
Yeah.
I know you think of changing it, but you still like it.
We keep it 2 years, I think.
Yeah, so still a little more for the DV-Dusk. We've got the Musketeers with the Cara system. That's a gigantic show with a 70-meter stage wide. So that's a gigantic one. We've got this Roman arena with gladiators. The show is called the Scene du Triomphe, and it's made with Kiva 2 SB15 as a main. So that shows how Kiva 2 is capable of throwing SPL to a lot of SPL to long distance, because this show is very active. It's not only a romance. And we've got this bird show. So let's stop on this one a little longer. This one has been renewed completely this year. What would you do, Scott, as a standard design for this kind? Maybe we can ask Sam what he would tell us as an objective for the show.
Yeah, we have some very beautiful male voice with a lot of low frequency. So we need a speaker who can reproduce that, and we need a very good LFE track, because we have a very epic music. So with a lot of things, and only stereo, because it's an old castle and we don't want to see speakers on the castle. So we have only two points to put the speakers with 50 meters between each. So it's yeah. Okay.
So classical music.
Classical music with symphonic music with a lot of synths and a lot of percussions.
Okay, so orchestral music, FX, and very deep male voice, cinema-like male voice. Scott, how would you do that?
Well, Sam said it was a left-right system. I would think we probably need 6 to 9 Cara per side. And I would want to probably find a position where we can get it somewhat close to the audience. So that we don't have to worry about the SPL. Yeah, probably somewhere in that area would be about right. So we could probably put a tower right there, I think, or something like that. Maybe a little speaker tower would be okay. So looks like you got Sound Vision open there. You're gonna give that a shot. I would imagine that would do pretty well.
So would that correspond to your design?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good starting point. Yeah, I probably want to use.
So you told me how many? I left the 12. It's maybe too much. How many would you put?
8. I guess 8 could probably do the SPL we need, because we need Sam. Most of these shows, if I recall, are they're probably what, between 95 and 100 dBA at their loud moments. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be a Cara. Let's make a symmetry maybe. Sam
sure.
was asking for a stereo system.
Yeah.
So that's what you would do. And you do, would you add subs? Maybe just.
Well, of course. No, I mean, we're going to need some pretty good sub count. I would imagine it's at least
on the side
standard
of it?
ratio. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so that would be some SB18. Sorry, I'm a little bit far off the screen. So let's keep the ratio with the three boxes per side. Let's copy paste it. It's stacked. Open it a little more. Okay, that would be.
Yeah, it's good.
So that's the kind of system you would design. Yeah. Sam, would you like to have this one?
Yeah, but I see the speaker. I just want to listen my music. Don't see the speakers on the show, so I think we need to think about another solution.
So the problem, Scott, I like your design. It's brilliant. It's perfectly suiting the objectives, but one. We only have this tower here. We only have this amount of space to fit in. So I think your 6 Cara and SB18 will never fit into this space. Okay, so let's go back to the Sound Vision and show you what we found as a solution for that. Sorry, I will hide your nice design, Scott. So the system is this one. So there are 2 tiers, facing each other. We've got the same system on each one, but on one we have 2 A15 focus, and on the other one, which is closer to the system, we have 1 focus and 1 wide. And you can see that the coverage is completely there, whether you're on the far bleacher or on the close bleacher. Let's have a quick mapping. We're not going into too much details of each cluster, but you can see that the solution is working perfectly with a nice homogeneity. It's a 2 dB per color step, so quite demanding scale here. We've got almost no sound on this part of the audience, which is covered by another system. So would this achieve the goal for you, Scott?
Yeah, it looks quite good. So
maybe we don't need those big clusters. Well, we can do with that, and look at that in the middle of the far bleacher. We can achieve more than 100 dBA.
Wow.
That's enough, Sam?
Yeah, maybe too much for us.
So that's enough, and we are at this point. Sorry, this is the closed one. Let's have a look at the other one. We are facing a 43 meters throw there.
Oh.
Okay, so we get 100 dBA with A15 that's capable of going down to 40 Hertz with a lot of contour natively without any subs. And then as the main is capable of that, we can have the subs underneath the bleacher because the main is capable of a full range reproduction. And that's it.
And so the subs in this particular show are really just an LFE channel, right? Because the main PA is doing all the music.
Yes.
That's cool.
Okay, so one more constraint. I told you about this area here where there are people in a completely different space, so no way to cover it by the main system for the bleachers. So same thing, Scott. What could be the solution? We have to fit the things. We have this space allowed. You see this hole between the trees. And then we have to, if we want more, we can do it, but it's not possible to cut much of the trees. We can cut only a very small part of it if you need to put speakers in. What would you think?
I think for sure the solution that makes sense to me down there is going to be probably SIVA. It looks like there's a skinny, tall gap there, or maybe we can color it green or something like that. There you go.
Oh.
That's like.
Do you like my SIVA?
Yeah.
So we've been able to put Siva, and as Sam is quite willing for a lot of subs and going down in frequency, we were able to put a KS21 with the Siva there. So that's quite huge in this area also. Okay, and last but not least, we talked about the contour that's needed in the park. We've got a 12 to 15 dB of contour with a 500 inflection point. That's the objective. That's what's been done in the studio. That's what Sam is willing, right, Sam?
Yeah.
As a mixer, that's the contour he likes to have to export his mixing in the studio to the real life. So with this 2A15, you could say, okay, it's only 2A15. All the specs of A15 will not answer. Well, that's a real curve from the real calibration. So you can see this one.
Oh, looks great. So that's the 2A15 and sub per side,
Exactly.
covering those bleachers, which is what, 40, 45 meters you said to the back?
Yeah, 43 meters. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
that's great.
Is there any other speaker capable of doing that on the market?
I hope not.
Maybe. I don't think so. I don't see any. Maybe there are some. I don't know. Okay, so let's go back to the other shows. We've got nights at Puy Du Fou. So Cara system on this one, and nice one with lot of magic, and yeah, that's a nice show also. We've got the story of French Revolution with the Dernier Panache. Full ELISA system, 24 clusters as a full ELISA immersive 360 system. And we've got some shows that are very specific to theme parks, and that you liked a lot these shows the past 2 or 3 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So they've been doing 4 of them this last years. The first one was in 2014, so with the old tools we had. Les Amoureux de Verdun, 2015. So that's a trenches reproduction with war inside, with guns and firing and bombs and tanks and lots of SPL and subs with the old tools also. We've got Le Mystère de la Pérouse in 2018. That I was able to do the calibration with the prototype of M1. At this time, we were preparing the network manager M1, and we had the prototype of it. So that was already a very cool prototype, but it took me more than 2 weeks to make the measurements, just because it was limited in groups, in numbers of stuff like that. But that was already much more than what we could do in those one, because the old tools, and I mean smart, it was cool, but it would be too long. In this shows you will see the last one that I could do in 2019 with the M1 Beta Network Manager, and this allowed me to go much quicker. So if we focus on Le Premier Royaume, so that's the last one we've been doing with the M1 in Network Manager. It's 150 enclosures from the X series, from 5XT to X12, 16 subs, 41 LF4X, 1 speaker, one channel of amplification. It's powered by ELISA. Sam, you mixed all the show with the ELISA processor,
yeah,
right?
We have 20 rooms in this show, and each room is with ELISA. Yeah, so was mixed with ELISA. Yeah,
nice way to get profit from the room engine and all the spatialization tools from the processor. And thanks to M1, we could do the standardized contour from Puy Du Fou, the 15 dB 500 inflection points, with 100 locations. I checked before I tell you that, so that's really 100 location, 200 LLN network manager groups, and the acquisition of the datas, not the EQs, of course, it was a little bit longer, but the acquisition of it's only 4 hours. Just going through the venue and doing the hundreds of measurements just one by one click, and move. And only with one mic. Okay, no need to have 4 mics. It's a long walkthrough. You have to go through the corridor, so only one mic, 100 locations for 4 hours. And Sam, how long did it take you to mix the show?
On site 2 days, maybe 1 month in studio, but on site 2 days because I have the same sound in the studio and on the show. So it's very.
And how long did it
quick.
take you to mix Les Amoureux de Verdun, the 2015 show?
It was 4 years ago now. I don't remember, maybe 2 weeks, I think.
Okay, 2 weeks
on site, yeah.
Just because at this time with Smart, we could just check the speakers. We could not have silent tuning. We could not have all the options of M1. Yeah. So the calibration at this point was just verifying that everything works well. Some delay with the subs,
yeah,
and that's it. We couldn't standardize the contour. It was too much speaker doing that with all tools.
All in Pro Tools.
So all the calibration and the EQs are done in Pro Tools in the mix, and that's not the moment you want to spend time on the shows. Okay, I'm moving too fast. Let me just show you one of the challenge of this show. Scott, you said in your presentation, in your introduction, that some of the boxes would need a lot of resources because they would be stuck in a box that would be itself in a box, in another box, behind a curtain, and with people in front of it. So you need a lot of resources to go through that. Let me show you one of the speakers that is in the armory. How would you say that in English? Weaponry? It's
surprisingly, it's armory is the exact same word in French and English, so we completely understand. Yeah.
So in the armory, you got a speaker that is maybe I can go back. I can show you the pictures of this room. I got it. Let me just go back to where is it? Here it is. So that's not this one. This one. Oh, too fast. So this is one speaker that is hidden between those weapons there, in a box on the floor behind an acoustic curtain because you can't really see anything. So that's very, very, very difficult to get sound from this box. So that's.
And Arno, I would assume Sam, the scenic designers, the architects, of course, told you that the curtain was acoustically transparent, right?
Yeah. Of course, they told us that it was completely insensible.
They print some decoration on it.
So it's quite a nice one because they have a very nice print. Visually, it's it's just perfect. They can print anything on it, pictures, textures. Really, it's really nice, and it's acoustically transparent, but it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dB depending on the frequency. So we have to compensate for that. And also the boxes where it's put, it's in a box, it's inside a scenery, so there is a lot of resonances that you can see appearing in those kind of speakers. So that one is the 93. So if I show you the average of it, so that's the average before the calibration. And if that's after. So of course this, for example, this one, minus 11 dB at 342. This might sound like a tremendous EQ that you would maybe not be willing to do on a standard show, but in this case you have to do it. And then you can go back to the standardized contour. Well, it's not prepared, sorry, but it's the exact contour that Sam is willing and he has in the studio. So he will spend very few time on this speaker.
And I suppose, Arno, for you, the nice thing is you said all the data acquisition took 4 hours. versus in the past it was 2 weeks of on-site tuning. I would imagine this helps out the construction process where you only need to find a lunch break or a dinner break to get some measurements done when the crew is gone, right?
Well, in fact, it was for the old ones. I was used to work after the other people, so it's quiet. So it was working from 7 p.m. to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Not what we like to do. We all do that when it's needed, but we don't really like to do that. And last year it was just starting at 8 after dinner, having a dinner early and starting at 8 and stopping at 10, and doing that 2 days in a row. And that was it. So that was much more comfortable. And doing the offline tuning in my hotel room rather than on a flight case inside the building, building under construction, it was really nice to be able to do that. Let me show you another example in this kind of show. Should be loading. Did I click on it? Yeah, it's loading. So this one is from another. I have the pictures also. I can show you. It's from this one. It was the first one. From this one. So the speaker is. Oh, sorry, I moved my. The speaker is intended to reproduce Clovis' voice, who is here, and it's behind those heavy curtains that are not at all acoustical curtains. It's fur from it's fake fur from animals. It's heavy drapery. It's very heavy material, and it's number 122. You can see the kind of session we have at the end of the process here. Can't have access to it. Just click on the preset version warning that is on my other screen, so I can do something in it. I'm ready. So in the tuning page, I will go to M1 and have a look at what is 122 in average before calibration. You can see the effect of this perfectly acoustical curtain. No, not at all. Not acoustical at all. It's 8 dB per row, so that might be a 14 dB loss.
Right. So you need to have a speaker that actually has performance to get back to where you want of 15 dB more than you need.
So that's why we choose the X12. X8 without all these curtains would have been much more than needed, but with all these curtains, the X12 was really appreciated. So if I go to the EQ, then it allows us to go back to something like this standardized contour. You can get back some EQ, some HF, and you can have it. Of course, it will never be as good as a speaker without anything in front of it, but still you can recover the energy that will allow the mix content to be correct.
It's interesting. I can only imagine how important it is to think about a standard contour in the context of sound design for a theme park, because Sam, you're probably working for months or longer ahead of time, helping to mix the musical score and develop the sound effects. And without that idea that this is going to translate really well, you have to take an entirely different approach to the sound design than you do when you know that this studio room sounds similar enough to the attraction itself. Yeah,
it's very, very important. You keep a lot of time.
So
like
it's
that.
more efficient for measurements, more efficient for mixing.
Yeah.
So we are saving, and I'm not sure if we had Sam to mix for 2 weeks in this show, then it would not happen because it would have been too late.
Yeah.
Because he didn't even have 2 weeks to mix the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want some more challenges in those kind of a park, Scott?
Yeah, what's next? I mean, we've talked about a show with a bunch of birds. That was really quite special. We have the walkthroughs, which are quite enjoyable. But I don't know that I have ever done a show in my life where the main PA throws 250 meters. It's not a typical problem. That's bigger than even most sports stadiums, I believe, at that kind of a distance.
Yeah, you're right. So the first challenge, I called it the 250 meter throw. It's La Cinécénie. This is the show. It's 9 main sources of audio, so nine physical points of audio of main sources. There is you add surround and stuff like that to that, but 9 main sources, K1 and K2. K1 for the one that are the more far, and K2 for the one that are closer. It's not a typo, it's more than 1,500 actors on stage. Okay, so that's not a typo. There is really, is it more now, Sam?
No.
It's still.
Yeah.
Last time I did a presentation like that, I was missing 300 people, so I updated it. So 1,500 and 14,000 visitors can sit in the bleacher. So that's a very, very big one. Let me show you that we are not lying to you. So that's where it stands. That is the bleacher of it. That is a huge scenic area because there is action everywhere. There is even some windmill somewhere in the. I can't find it. Yeah, it's here. This one is taking fire during the show, so it's part of the show.
It's 45 acre of the size of the stage. 45 acre.
45 arc. So let's have a look at this bleacher. Okay, distance. The bleacher is 150 meter wide. Okay, it's 50 meter deep, and the track that is the farthest from the tier is is here. Let me show you. We've got a K1 here. So if I click on it and I go to the most, so I lied to you. It's not 250 throw, it's 245 throw. But still, that's the real throw of this show. And Scott, maybe you can tell us how K1 is an evidence for this kind of challenge.
Sorry, one more time. I lost you there for a second, Arno.
Can you tell us how we could benefit of the technology of K1 to do this kind of show? So the tracks are 2 K1 SB plus 4 K1.
Right. Well, obviously, in this scenario, we've got such a long throw capability, and K1 really does well at that long throw at very high frequencies, and it has a lot of power very high up. I would imagine just the 250 meters alone, in even the very nice climate of that part of France, is still losing 15 or 20 dB at 10 kilohertz. So we really need to have as much power as human as possible in those high frequencies in order to have something that sounds hi-fi, if you will, or sounds that pristine sound. I would also imagine using the K1SB is going to be beneficial to just enhance the overall low end of that array in a nice coherent way. We're so far away, we're not necessarily getting a benefit in throw all the way to the back compared to the front, because the audience is quite far to begin with. But overall, we have got a nice full range source that gets us that far. I would also have to imagine that your 90 degrees of a K1 is just about right for that kind of distance and that kind of audience. Is that right, Arno?
Yeah, that's right. The 90 degrees are just perfect at this distance. You cover all the bleacher with a very good homogeneity. You're not missing anybody on the sides, so that's just perfect. And I was asking Sam, what is the peak SPL you can achieve?
It's a peak 100.
So 100 dBA as a peak during the show with clusters at this distance. So still what you all that you need, because the show is 1 hour and a half, so you don't need more than 100 dBA.
Yeah, that's great. And if I recall from the design, there are 4 clusters of K1 that are far away, and is it 5 clusters of K2 that are closer? Is that right, Sam?
Yeah. In the front of the bleacher, yeah. And we have like an SDDS format of mixing, and I can use my panoramic in Pro Tools. So it's the reason why we have 5 speakers in front of.
So the reason why I'm not sure you see my mouse on the screen depending on your bandwidth, but the reason we can't do only one point there is clear, is that if the action is on the castle, then the only way to be sure that everybody will hear the sound coming from the castle is to have it at the castle. Yeah. And if you put it only in the front of the water part, then some guys will have the right axis, but some others will have a complete different axis. That's not possible to spread it over this region and still have a good coherent visual effect. And the other point is that you only can get the gigantic space of this area by having speakers that are playing very far, so they can generate complete, let's say, magical space reverberation in all the scenery. Yeah. So that's a big challenge. So maybe if the wind's down, I'm there in an hour. Do you want another funny challenge, Scott?
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite shows that I've been able to see. I think I've seen it 3 times now. It's a really, really, really neat show. I had heard about it before we got there because, of course, it was the first Eliza install in the world. But to experience it was something entirely different. I conceptually heard about it, but it was just so incredible. You want to describe it a little bit, Arno? And I can only imagine what it was like to sound design for this show in 2015, 16 was when the design was happening.
The design was 2015, 14, even 14.
The first time with Christian.
So we were willing to have, he couldn't join us, but Nicolas de Villiers, who is what's his title? Artistical director of the park.
President of the park.
President of the park. So Nicolas is thinking of the ideas of show, and in 2014 he had this idea so that's the specs, but he had this idea of this show that would be getting the visitor in front of a new stage in every act. So in theaters you do that by removing the scenery and getting a new one in it. But the scenery is so gigantic there. It's a full boat, a real boat that's here, or a real swimming pool that is acting as the sea.
Not a swimming pool.
No, not a swimming pool, a real sea. Sam is correcting me. So a real sea that is there. You can't remove this sea to have the 2 minutes after a complete different scenery. So the idea was to take the bleacher and to have all the scenery ready and to make the bleacher turn in front of the scenery. But at this point, he didn't know at all how to do that with the sound. and there was no solution. And they are very close with Christian, and they had a discussion about that, and he told Christian, oh, I have got this crazy idea of having this bleacher turning and moving. And Christian at this time was, you might not have been aware at this time, Scott, but Christian was already thinking about ELISA and all this technology. So he told him, okay, maybe when do you want to do that? In 2 years? Maybe I will be ready in 2 years to have a solution for you. So that must be the time he had to do the first processor, first integration of the ELISA technology. So there the technology is used in 2 different ways. Let me go back. So the show is mixed with ELISA. In the studio we are right now with Sam. Mm-hmm. So it was mixed all with the 8XT there that represents each one of them one cluster of FARX WAVEFO. So there is 24 clusters of FARX WAVEFO there. And so that's the first use of the technology, mixed, as you might have seen in the previous webinars, object-based mixing with ELISA. And then there is a live processor. It's a live processor for one reason. As the bleacher is turning, you need to have your mix, which is already mixed with ELISA. You need to have this mix turning with the bleacher. And to do that, of course, you can't make the speakers turn because they are integrated in the roof and they can't turn with the bleacher. So you need to have the ELISA processor to make these 24 objects, that 24 tracks that became objects, turn in the same way as the bleacher. And to do that, there is a mechanical command, OST command from the bleacher to the processor. So if the bleacher for any reason stop moving, you would be really disappointed as a visitor if the sound continues turning. So if the bleacher stops, the sound stops. If the bleacher is faster, the sound is faster. If the bleacher is slower, the sound is slower. And the processor is also capable of having those children's in the show. That's the only live part for the emotional aspect, and it's working perfectly. The children's are live. They have microphones on them, so they can act and they can make all the family cries in the most emotional parts of the show. So that was important for them to have them live, and the processor is capable of following the children's. And this speaker is capable of making 2,500 people turning from stage to stage. So that was a big common objective between the Puy Du Fou and L-Acoustics. Maybe really that's part of the reason of the partnership also.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I don't think if I knew that we were turning, so I knew in advance that the bleachers turned.
Who told you?
Several people told me, but I don't think if I knew and if I didn't look up, because the only way you can tell that you're moving is that the ceiling is rotating the wrong way. It's moving, but the bleacher, it's so smooth, and the audio is also staying exactly in position. And if I remember, certain times, or at least maybe the first 2 stages, the projection mapping and curtains close, and you don't even notice that you're moving to a new stage, and all of a sudden the scene has changed. Halfway through the show, I believe, if I remember, you start to see it moving with the curtains open, and you notice that it's happening. But that first move or two, it's really quite magical. And all of a sudden, it's just like, how did they change from an entire scene with a ship to an entire scene with a countryside and fighting in 60 seconds? And it's that they moved 2,500 people as opposed to the set. It was really quite special.
So that's it for me. Is there any questions remaining in the chat? Did you see any topic that was coming?
No, I was just looking through to see if there were any questions coming in. I know there was some questions about this. A place like a theme park, is it a lot different than other environments in terms of how the systems are deployed are the systems installed from the entire year? Are they serviced every week? How does that happen, and how does that function at a theme park like this?
The park is opening from beginning of April to mid-October.
End of October.
End of October. So it remains December, January, February, March. So 4 months to make the maintenance of all the equipment and create the new shows. So 4 months during this period, all the equipment that are staying outside are taken back to the warehouse, and they can do the full maintenance of it and put it back when the park opens. So in fact, it's more like 3 months in the warehouse. So it's still 9 months in the outside, and during this time, the speakers are just left there. There is no back and forth rigging of it. So it's just left outside.
And Sam, how big of a team do you have to help with the day-to-day operation, so the running of the park?
The audio team is about 20 people.
And there are 20 something attractions. Is that right? There's 20, so it's
more 50 now.
Cool.
Right. But with small, we have we have 25 big shows, and the other one is small shows with restaurant shows or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have so it's not a very big staff. Do you guys? How do you monitor the systems during the performance? How do you keep an eye on the systems? Are there any special developed tools, or is this just standard software?
Okay, I will take this one, Scott. For the monitoring, there is a network manager is running in every technical room of every show. Every show has its own technical room, and there is a global management in the main technical room that is globalizing the whole park, and you can access the system from this room, the system of any show. And then they don't monitor the network manager every second during the shows, because it would be never ending. But they have warnings that they program themselves. So if something goes wrong, for example, I don't know, an amplifier is not responding, then in the main technical room there is a warning coming from an SNMP message that just says, "Hey, pay attention to this show. There is something going wrong."
And we receive an email too.
And with an email link to
Yeah.
that, okay. So it's even an email.
Well, that's really cool. I wanted to, obviously thank Sam and his team at Puy Du Fou for doing some amazing work with sound design, with show design. And I've got one last question. Instead of asking the two of you first, I'm going to ask Jesse, Sergey, and Alex. All three of them have been there, what their favorite show was. So Jesse, you've been to Puy Du Fou once, and we spent, I think, 3 days there a couple years ago. We saw 15 different shows. What was the one that stood out to you?
Gosh, it was so hard to say because they were all so spectacular in their own way. For example, there was the one show where we had the really, really long throw of K1, and we were all sort of marveling at how well K1 did at such a distance. That was quite impressive in that way. There were other ones that were quite immersive, and so you get lost in this walkthrough experience, and you're sort of transported back in history. The audio is adding this immersive realism element and taking you through this journey. So that's impressive in its own way. And then, of course, like the bird show, where, when's the last time you saw 100 birds of prey flying around in a coordinated manner over your head? I mean, the whole park is just, one amazing experience after another. So it's really hard to pick which one was my favorite, especially when they all had their own strengths. And then, of course, the ones with fireworks and pretty ladies as well, also didn't hurt.
Excellent. Well, Jesse, that's the best political answer you could have given this year. I can see you've successfully made it through marriage by not answering the question. Sergey, you've been there 3 times or twice. What is your personal favorite attraction at Puy Du Fou?
It's changed from the first visit to the second, and there is no single favorite show because I like quite a lot of them. On the first time I was, one of my favorite ones was the organ on water. I don't know what it's called in French. It's the organ, and I think there is a stack of CUDA deployed there. Arno will correct me if I'm wrong. That was not open to the public, but we were able to experience it. So that was amazing. Last thing I've seen on the second time, I quite liked it. It's a long show and it was getting quite cold. That was the only thing I didn't like, but otherwise, visually, acoustically, it's an impressive show. Then the one we talked about today, I'm not good with names. The one with the DV-DOSC and DV-SAPs.
The Vikings.
The Viking show.
Yeah, this one is quite good. Then the Elisa one, which is the 24 arcs La Panache, Dana Panache.
Le dernier panache.
Dana Panache. Yeah, that one is quite cool. But then the second time when I was there, I appreciated more the walkthroughs because they're really immersive on both visual part and the audio part. I don't know. I reckon that the third time I will go there, I will enjoy even more. It takes a while to appreciate because it takes a while to create all of this. It takes a while to appreciate, like it takes a while to appreciate good music, good work of art. It takes a while to appreciate what has been done.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sergey. Alex, last and definitely not least, was there any experience for you that just stood out more than most?
Well, I just been there once. I guess it was 2 years ago, and it was a fantastic experience. I would say, I really enjoy all the shows. Probably my favorite is the birds show. That's quite impressive. That you can see how the birds flying around you and barely touching you. But of course, I did enjoy the walkthrough as well, and big shows and small shows, especially when you, in some way, you were aware of what is happening, before we get there. You can now appreciate it from the visitor point of view, but also from the technical point of view, and it's quite impressive. I extend my congratulations to these guys. They did a great job. It's amazing. I strongly or highly recommend this to anyone that visit France.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. Well, I'm going to tell you guys I've been to the park twice, once with the family and once for an event with L-Acoustics. My kids were they almost stopped speaking at times because of some of the attractions, but the Roman show, the Colosseum show, is a spectacle that I can't put into words how amazing it is. I've seen it both times I've been there. And the last time I was there with my family about 10 months ago was we ended up in the first row right up front, which is quite terrifying near the end of the show when some large animals come by. I believe my wife had a mini heart attack thinking that our children were going to get taken away. So it was quite a great experience, lots of fun. I also enjoyed just about everything there, like everyone else was saying. And the other thing that I enjoyed was the brand new show that was it 2 years ago or last year was the Musketeers. It was a great show, especially because I was in France for the heat wave last summer and we were at Puy Du Fou during the heat wave. And that show's air conditioned, so it's really nice to be able to take that break and see a fun show in a warm space. Arno, you've probably seen every performance there far too many times, and I'm sure you've taken the family there as well. What's your favorite attraction?
Hard to say. Yeah, I have to tell. Yeah, I love coming there. I'm spending. Regarding meetings for projects, then demos, because we have as usual, as normal place, we have to do demos for them to show them that to prove them that the design is working perfectly. and usually it doesn't last long, but they need to have those demos. So between projects, demos, and visit for calibration and visit with the family, I'm spending quite a lot of weeks there each year. So that's something that I love. I'm just thinking what my my best show is. Hard to say.
Yeah.
I would say I like the Roman arena, le Signe du Triomphe. It's quite well, it's gigantic. It's very, very impressive. And to complete maybe, so if you went there already, today is brand new Orgue de Feu. So Sergei, that's the one outside you were called but you loved. So brand new show there, brand new sound at the bird show.
Yeah.
And Cinesceni is updated also. So that will be stuff to see and hear this year.
Excellent. Well, Arno, Sam, I want to thank both of you very much for taking the time today. It's really a big, great pleasure to see both of you again and to hear all about theme park sound design challenges. All of you who are watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below so you get updated on all of these new content from L-Acoustics. For those of you live in the Q&A, thank you for joining us. Please, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Be safe, be healthy, and take this time to learn more about what we do for a living, and don't hesitate to ask us questions on social media. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.